afternoon and welcome back to another video here from the Off-Grid Garage. And sunny, it is hot, it is hot. Another day with 250 amps outside. Ridiculous. As you can see, I've got my Off-Grid Power Systems t-shirt on. That means we are doing some work on the Seplos battery and on the Powerwall 2.1. Yeah, in today's video I want to connect these batteries here to our Turbo GX. I mean, together. So as one battery, you know, so as one unit. And I just got the 50mm cable delivered today, which we will use to connect the 6.9 kilowatt-hour battery and the 15 kilowatt-hour battery together using these Futronics, whatever they're called, because they have a 50mm ring terminal on this side. And I've got some 50 by 10 ring lugs for this side. And I've just removed this foam in between the batteries here because, well, this is actually compressing over time. And because of the weight of these batteries here, it will shrink down to only a few millimeters from this natural size. And I had some offcuts of this anti-slip mat, and this is exactly what I've put underneath now. And we don't want the batteries to come closer over time, because then my cables won't fit anymore correctly, or they may be a bit out of shape. And now we've got these two batteries here sitting together very closely, and we can make our cables now. So in here I thought we are going straight and then all the way down to hit on this terminal, and the negative goes straight above the connectors and then down to this terminal of the bottom battery here. I think this is better than doing it straight, because this will be a bit too short here. I always like to have a little bit of slack in these cables, so a bit of movement just in case. So, and now we have to pay attention of this part, because we need to put this over the cable before we start crimping the other connector. Oh no, actually, in this case, I would be able to pull it over the ring lug from the other side still. Okay. It is a bit tight. Hey, cut it off here. I'm not sure how good we can crimp them, but Seplos has advised a hydraulic crimper will do the job. So let's see. All the way this way. Needs to go this way. This is flat on this side, and yeah, that'll fit. Just want to double check again. Yep, that'll be okay, I guess. So I've made the cable for the negative connection as well, and well, let's put it on, and we have to let's observe the BMS's display, because we are now paralleling these two batteries. One of them says we are at 78.9 and this one states at 97.5. So in theory there should be a current from this battery into the smaller battery. And if you haven't seen the Futronics connectors here, that's how they look like. And they actually click mechanically into the socket. And to release them, there is this little push button here on this side. And maybe you can see inside this ring there. See this mechanic in there? This releases your plug from the socket again. Once it is clicked in, it is securely connected. You have to find this notch here. And there's the notch on the plug. And they should fit together, and then it clicks in. Now you can turn it in all kinds of directions. But to release it, you have to push this button on the side, and then you can just pull it again. It's actually pretty good. At the beginning I wasn't a big fan of these connectors, but well, they're not too bad. So, and in the small battery we have 53.25 volts, and here we have 53.44, so it's almost the same voltage. So when we connect this one here now, the batteries are in parallel, and there's no spark. All the lights come on because we are charging, discharging, and we are negative 3.5 amps. And here positive 3.5 amps. So we can secure this cable. And I hope it fits better now. I had to actually cut off the lug again because it was a bit too long. And it looked like shit, really. See, even this one is a bit too long here. The plug is not straight. Yeah. It is a bit too long, a tiny bit too long. And this one was far too long. Like 15, 20 millimeters. It looks like this now. So positive on the right, negative on the left. And they're both now connected and equalize out against each other. So, and now it is time to have a look at the communication and how we connect them together. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure how this works, but we will find out. And to connect these two batteries together now is actually not recommended by Seplos, because at the top we've got a 100 amp BMS, while in the bottom we have a 150 amp BMS. And they recommend only two parallel batteries with the same BMS and the same capacity. And here we have 100 ampere hours and 280 ampere hours. So, but this is exactly what we do here on the channel, right? We're testing. We want to see what happens and learn from that. So hopefully it works. And here at the top we have the Seplos BMS 10C. And here we have the brand new 10E BMS. And with the 10E BMS, you actually don't need the dip switches anymore. Because with this new BMS, there's also an automatic configuration available now. So all the batteries in parallel, they don't need the dip switches anymore. This is all software controlled and regulated now. But because we are still using the old 10C, we have to use the dip switches, of course, because this one doesn't work with the automatic configuration without the dip switches. So how this all works now is we've got the RS485 connectors, two of them with each BMS, and this is exactly where we will connect these BMSs together. So I go from one RS485 to the next one. Okay, so this should be the connection we need. And then one of the batteries is the master, and only the master gets connected from the CAN port to the Servo GX or your Raspberry Pi. And we want to have a quick look on the Google Drive from Seplos, where they have all the information available how to set this all up. So first of all, we go into the RS485 DIP address setup. And here we can see if we have only one battery, we don't need the dip switches at all. With two batteries, we have to set one battery to 1 and the second battery to 2. So this is very straightforward, right? Okay, so let's set this one to 1. And the bottom one is dip switch number 2. And then we connect another Ethernet cable to one of the RS485 ports, either on the top battery or the bottom battery, it doesn't really matter. So we connect this here, and the other end goes into our RS485 to USB adapter. Okay. And then we start our battery monitor software. Select our COM port. The speed is 19,200 baud. Click on connect. And nothing happens. So we need to tell the software which battery we want to connect to. Pack 1 or pack 2 or both. Okay, select both. Connect. And it connects straight away. So, and then here on the top left hand corner, you can see it changes frequently from pack number 1 to pack number 2. And you can also see the different state of charges the batteries have, depending which BMS is actually pulled at the moment. The battery voltage is the same. It has equalized out now between the two packs. And you can also deselect one of the packs, so it stays with pack number 1, which is our top battery. And you can see here it is the 135 ampere hour battery. So if we switch to the other pack, number 2, you can see it is the 280 ampere hour battery. So this communication via RS485 is now working. So then we want to connect our Victron Type A BMS cable to the Servo GX, and we plug in the other end into our CAN port. That is this one here. Yeah, but as we can see, there's no communication happening. It is still trying to reach something, but there's no response from the BMS. Okay. I wonder if we get a response if we try the bottom one. Let's try this CAN port. No, there's no response either. So this doesn't work. Okay, let's go back to the Seplos website and have a look at the CAN DIP address setup. So obviously with one battery we don't need to set any DIP switches, and with two batteries, so for the first battery we need to set switch number 5 to on, and for the second battery switch number 1. But switch number 1, see, there's a bit of a clash now, because switch number 1 is already set for the RS485 communication. So I'm not sure how this works together now. See, we have already set number 1 here for the top battery for the RS485 communication. And then there's number 2 set for the bottom BMS for the RS485 communication. But there's nothing for the CAN. Okay, so if we set this one here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to on. Okay, that is now on. And let's go back into our servo, but there is still no communication. I don't understand this information on the Seplos Google Drive here. It looks like the DIP switches from the RS485 are contradicting the DIP switch settings you need for the CAN. I don't know. I'll do some more research and we get back to all this tomorrow morning. So before we continue to connect these two batteries to our Victron system, I think we need to do a firmware update on one of the BMSs, and this is the 10C in the 6.9 kilowatt hour battery at the top. And as you can see down here, we are running version 2.7, and there is a firmware 2.8 available. In the battery monitor software, you can see the firmware update button up here. And you would expect you need to connect to the battery, right? But as soon as you connect, the actual firmware button is grayed out and you cannot use it anymore. So make sure you are not connected to the battery, but physically connected with a cable. And click on the firmware update. Then select your COM port. These are the same settings as here on the right hand side.
Pack number 0, there's only one pack connected at the moment. Leave all the other settings as they are. Choose your file, which you can't, because you have to click on Open first to make the connection between the software and the BMS. And this enables the button to search for the actual software file. Go in the Seplos folder. So this is how the file looks like. It says CAN 1101, and this is the firmware 2.8, so 2.8. And this is especially for Victron and SMA devices or systems. The ending is EHEX. So make sure you open that, upload it, and I think now you just click on download. And this will flash our BMS, hopefully now. You can see the progress bar down here. And as always with firmware updates, you don't touch the system anymore. Just leave it running. Don't do anything. Yep. While it is flashing, the run button is permanently on, but there's no action on the display anymore. So it is now in update mode. Success! Okay, so I think we can close this one here, close the firmware updater, and now we want to connect to the BMS again. And we can see it was successful. We are on 2.8 now. This is how easy you can update the firmware on your Seplos BMS. I linked the BMS 2.8 down in the description. So if you have a Victron system or an SMA system, it is probably recommended to update to the latest version 2.8 at the moment. Okay guys, I think I solved it. So the problem here is the documentation is not very clear, neither from Seplos nor what you can find in the forums. People have done different things, but it's all very vague, not very precise, not very detailed explained. So that's why you are here in the Off-Grid Garage, and we do an all detailed video where I explain all the necessary steps to make this work, to connect multiple Seplos batteries to your Victron system, even different batteries, 6.9 kilowatt hours, 14, 13 point something kilowatt hours. Here. Okay. So this is a 100 ampere hour, 6.9 kilowatt hour battery, and the BMS is the 48110C for CAN. While down here we have the 280 ampere hour or 14.3 kilowatt hour battery, and this is a 4850 BMS, the brand new 10E with Bluetooth. So two totally different batteries, totally different BMSs, and I got it working. And I'll show you how. So in the forum, in the Victron community forum, you can find posts where it says, if you connect multiple batteries together, make sure your master battery, the one which is connected to your Victron system, to your inverter or to your Venus or to something else, CAN, all the DIP switches need to be turned off. Settings. Services. Okay, so, here. CAN port, communication. There we go. Okay, so, as you can see, if you do that, you can communicate with this battery via CAN bus to your Victron system. It sends packages and it receives packages. And if we go all the way back, you can see there's battery data here. And if you go into the details, you can see it gives you the lowest, the highest cell voltage, the minimum, maximum temperature, the battery modules online, and some more information like the installed capacity and the usable capacity. So all these information are coming from the 10C BMS now. But this only works with the 2.8 firmware version. This is what I've just shown before that. You need to upgrade your 10C BMS from Seplos to the 2.8 firmware version. Otherwise, this details button will not be there. Or at least it gives you less information. So, all good, right? All good. So now we're having a look in the Google Drive of Seplos again and go to the BMS DIP address settings for RS485 and CAN. So open this folder and we're going to have a look at the RS485 DIP settings. So for one pack, no DIP switches at all. For two packs, we need to have the master or one battery on 1 and the other battery on 2. Don't do that. This only enables your RS485 communication, but not the CAN communication. So don't do that. But keep it in mind. So if you go back and have a look at the CAN DIP address settings, you can again see one battery pack, no DIP switches at all. And this is what we have just now. There are no DIP switches at all. And it works with this one battery pack. Even we have connected the batteries already with this blue cable RS485. See, this blue cable goes from one battery pack into the other one. Okay, so this makes it more clear. So there's the cable RS485 connected, but this one doesn't show. So now it says for two battery packs for CAN communication, DIP switch number 5 for one battery and DIP switch number 1 for the second battery. As you can now see, this is in contrast to the RS485 DIP switch settings we have seen before, because there was number 1 set for one battery and number 2 set for the other battery. So what are you doing now? Are you setting number 1 and number 2 and here number 1 and number 5? No, it won't work. You're confusing the system completely, totally. It's not going to work. So neither the recommendation from the forums to leave your master battery all DIP switch in the off position works, nor does following the instructions on the Seplos website work. Okay, so we are now in the battery software, in the Seplos battery monitor software. And if we connect to the battery here, so we are now connected to the 135 ampere hour battery. This is the top battery we have. And if you click down here on the multiple button, this is where I got the understanding how this all works. Look at this, what shows here. There's pack 00 and pack 01. And this is a bit confusing because our first battery pack, our master battery pack, is not battery pack number 1, it is battery pack 0. 0. This is our 135 ampere hour battery, and pack number 1 is our 280 ampere hour battery. Yeah. So all DIP switches off and only number 1 is on here. So this is our battery number 0, battery number 1. Works all fine with the RS485 communication. Oh, the sun is coming out. I've got 150 amps outside. Nice. Okay, so this all works with the RS485 communication, right? And then when you are connected like this, you can also say, well, show me pack number 1. And then you've got the 280 ampere hour battery shown. And if you disable this one here again, it shows you the 135 ampere hour battery again. So you can switch easily between all your packs. And this works with up to 16 battery packs apparently then. I've got a third one incoming very soon, so we will test this at least with 3 battery packs then. So, but this all works with the RS485 communication, but as you can see, you're not following the instructions on their website to set the DIP switches like this. So pack number 1 is 1, pack number 2 is 2. No, you start with pack number 0. But still, we can see only one battery pack, right? There's only one battery pack visible for the CAN communication now to our Victron system. So how do we get the other one communicating all the data to this battery, to this BMS, and then this one reports the combined data to the Victron system? So, and here comes the trick. We have 2 packs and want to have the CAN communication. What we do is we follow this one here. And we set the battery number 0, DIP switch number 5 to on. And for the second battery, we have already set the DIP switch number 1 to on, right? This is for the RS485 communication, but it's the same for the CAN communication. So this all matches the RS485 communication. But with the CAN, you're starting from DIP switch number 5 to 8 now. For the first battery here, there is never a DIP switch from 1 to 4 set. For any of these battery configurations here, even if you have 10P, you're starting from dip switch number 5. So we have only 2 batteries, so what we do is we set dip switch number 5 to on. Screwdriver, and now we go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and turn this one on, and you can see immediately there it comes. Did you see that? It jumps to 2. So it now recognizes both of our batteries connected via the CAN port to our Victron system. And now it combines them together as one battery. You can see the lowest cell voltage is in pack number 2, while our highest cell voltage is in pack number 0, which is pack number 1. And we got the minimum cell temperature in pack number 2 and the maximum cell temperature in pack number 1. So basically you can forget about pack 0 and pack 1 now, because the Victron system shows you the correct numbering now. So battery number 1, battery number 2. And then if you go further down here, you can also see the installed and available capacity has changed now automatically. I'm not sure why it only shows 270 ampere hours at the moment here. We may have to fully charge the battery and then calibrate it again with the Victron system connected or something. I don't know yet. But the available capacity is 411 ampere hours. But if you go into your capacity display, we have a calibrated capacity of 131 ampere hours, right? And if we do the same here, going into capacity on the big battery, we can see we have a calibrated capacity of 280 ampere hours, because I've never calibrated this battery here yet. So 280 plus 131 is, tada, 411 ampere hours. So the Seplos BMSs now report the combined capacity to the Victron system and show this in here. There's no need to calculate this all together or something. They do it automatically. Okay, so the instructions on the Seplos website are actually correct, but they are super confusing because, well, we are using both here. We are using the RS485 connection between the BMSs and also the CAN connection. So which do you actually follow now? Because as you have seen, if we set the dip switches to follow the RS485 communication, we can connect the computer and read the single battery modules, and it gives us all the data in the system then. But then connecting to the CAN port to the Victron system, it doesn't do anything anymore. I need to talk to Seplos about this. This is really confusing for people, and there's a lot of speculation, a lot of guessing, a lot of testing, a lot of trial and error on the forums as well about this. So the solution is actually pretty simple for that. If you want to connect your batteries to communicate to an inverter, which only talks RS485, some of the Growatt inverter, I think they just talk RS485, they don't have CAN. You need to follow the RS485 dip switch settings in this diagram. So battery number 1, dip switch number 1, battery number 2, dip switch number 2. And then you connect your inverter to the same RS485. Yeah, just to any of these RS485 communication ports, either on this side or in the port of the other battery. And then your battery communicates via RS485 to your inverter. There's no CAN communication at all. This is only RS485. But if you want to communicate via CAN to the Servo GX or to your Raspberry Pi with a CAN head, or to an inverter with a CAN port, you need to follow the diagram for the CAN dip switch settings. So, and this means we have 2 batteries following the instructions to set up the CAN communication. We set dip switch number 5 to on for one battery, and then dip switch number 1 to on for the second battery. So these are completely different settings to the RS485. And this does not mean it disables your internal RS485 communication. This will still work with these settings then. And I think this is something where people actually struggle, because we are talking about RS485, but we are not following the RS485 diagram on their website. So as soon as you connect to your CAN port of one of the batteries, you follow the CAN diagram on the Seplos website. And then just plug in the RS485 and forget about the RS485, it will just work. It makes it internally work anyway.
So this is actually not hard to understand, but it is not well documented on their website. So, and we are still connected via RS485 from our computer to the batteries. And we want to see if we can still connect to our battery packs now. So I select battery number 1 here and click on connect. And it connects, but it connects to the 280 ampere hour battery, which is our battery number 1. Remember, this is the one with the dip switch 1 to on. And if we click on multiple here, it shows me only battery pack number 1, not number 0 anymore. And there's no other battery pack highlighted, so it does not communicate with any other battery pack here at the moment. So why is that? Well, going back on the page with all the dip switches set for the RS485 communication, and remember, on the top battery we have set dip switch number 5 to on because of the CAN communication. But communicating with RS485, there is no dip switch number 5 ever set in any of these configurations. See, it goes only from 1 to 4. 1 to 4 is RS485, 5 to 8 is CAN. And we want the CAN communication, obviously, to connect to the Victron system. So now we are not able to communicate with this BMS anymore via RS485. So that means changing any settings in this BMS, not anymore. You have to take down this dip switch number 5 to off, and then it reacts as battery pack number 0 again. And then you can do your changes, and afterwards you have to set this dip switch for number 5 to on again to enable the CAN communication. And this is certainly a very shitty situation, right? This is a really bad design. It is not straightforward, it is cumbersome, and you need to constantly think about what you are doing, which battery pack is what. So to overcome all this is why Seplos has now created, designed, and are building the 10E version of the BMS, which comes with the Bluetooth. So this enables you to connect to the battery packs via Bluetooth. But also, you don't need the dip switches anymore. There is a setting somewhere in the new 10E BMS software where you can enable dip switchless configuration, or I don't know. I need to have a look where this actually is. So if you have only batteries with 10E BMSs, you don't need the dip switches anymore. And this should make life a lot easier because A, you can then connect to each of the BMSs using Bluetooth from your mobile phone and change parameters very quickly, as we have seen in one of the last videos. And then also the batteries are figuring out how many packs you have in parallel. So all this bullshit here then is totally obsolete with the new BMSs. Whew. Okay guys, I think this was a big step ahead now, and it took me two and a half, almost 3 days to figure this all out, to do testing, to read through forums, to test several suggestions they have made, read all the documentations from Seplos. And hopefully with this video here we have now a comprehensive explanation how this works with several battery packs in parallel now, how we establish the RS485 communication between the battery packs, and then the CAN communication between one of the packs and our Venus OS or the servo jigs. Alright guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all your amazing support here, for all these wonderful people donating to the channel, buying me beer. I really need it. It is nice and hot and sunny outside. Summer has just started and we can see 240, 250 amps each day outside. And this brings us to another topic in one of the next videos, where we talk about to limit the maximum current going into our battery. Because we all want to oversize our solar system, right? But we don't want to charge with 600, 700, 800 amps into our battery. So we need to limit that. But we still want to enable the solar panels to deliver this energy directly to our load. Alright guys, until the next video, you stay charged, stay safe, and thanks again for watching. See you then. Bye bye. Finally, the problem is solved.